Adobe Classroom in a Book, Chapter 12. This is Part C. I'm on the top of page 369. I'm trying to work through this fairly slowly, and I remember I am working with a broken mouse, so it makes my life a little more difficult as well. Now, we can duplicate content on the grid using a copy and paste, or we can use some other methods. We're going to duplicate an object in perspective, and we're going to move an object perpendicular to an existing object. So we're going to go up to View first of all and fit your artboard in the window. Okay, now we want to go back into View, and we want to go to the perspective grid, and we're going to unlock our grid so we can move it and edit it. Now, I also actually went in and by mistake I showed my my guides here, which I didn't mean to do. I'm going to hide my grid because that I don't want showing. It gets too confusing with all those grid marks going on there. Next, we are going to position the pointer over the perspective selection tool and click and hold down until so you can grab your perspective grid tool. Position the pointer over the right grid extent widget, which is going to be, let's see, over here, this one. We want to drag this, click it and drag it to the left until it reaches the edge of our first box. There you go. Now you might pull a little bit. Mine kind of lags behind my mouse just a bit. Changing the extent of the grid plane allows you to see more or fewer grid lines. We're going to create another product box to the left of the box we've created. And to do this, we're going to copy the content. So now select the perspective selection tool, that's the one underneath the grid tool, and we're going to select the gradient filled rectangle on the right side. Begin dragging the rectangle to the left. As you drag, press Option and your Shift key, or or Alt and Shift on your window. So click to select and hold down your Alt and Shift and drag to the left. Okay. Stop dragging when the measurement tool shows a dx value of minus 1.4. So I have drawn too far. I'm going to go 1.2, 1.3, 1.39, whoa, 1.4. Well, I may not be able to get exact. There we go. Okay. Now the Shift key should hold this pretty much. Even though my Y, I'm showing my Y, that's my movement, but you see I'm being constrained to 45-degree angles here, so I'm not going to actually get this far out of whack here. 1.3, 1.7, 1.4. There we go. And now I'm going to release my mouse before I release my constraint keys. Okay? Now, we are going to drag the upper right point of the new rectangle up and to the left. Okay? And that is going to make the rectangle taller and narrower. We want an approximate width of 0.62 with a height of 5.8. So up and to the left, a height of 5.8 and a width of 0.62. much narrower. Keep going. 0.63 is probably as close as I'm going to get because of my grids, and my height 5.8. 5.79 is probably the height I'm going to get. So there is my next panel. Now we could zoom in, or we could change the size of the selected rectangle using the width and height values in the control panel or transform panel, but this is working just fine. With the new rectangle in place, we're going to move the rectangle in a direction perpendicular to its location. Now this technique is very useful when you're creating parallel objects like the legs of a chair. So with the rectangle still selected, we haven't deselected it, hold down your number 5 key on your keyboard and drag the rectangle a little bit to the right. Come on, it's not dragging. Oh, I'm using that crazy thing again. When the measurement label shows a distance X value of about 1/4 of an inch, release the mouse and then release the 5 key. This causes the object to move parallel to its current location. You could also have press the Option key or the Alt key while dragging to copy the object that you're dragging. Now, we're going to use the Escape key to hide your perspective grid, deselect, and save. If this didn't work for you, again, I want you to go back and rework this section, and then you'll be ready to move on. Well, it's usually best to adjust the grid before there's artwork in it. Illustrator allows you to move objects perpendicularly by moving the grid plane instead of moving it the way we did. And this can be better for more precise perpendicular movement. So now we're going to move a grid plane and move the artwork together. So if you Control-Shift-I, Control-Shift-I, or Command-Shift-I in your Mac, that should show your perspective grid. Or not. It didn't work for me. So let's try this again. Control-Shift-I. And there it worked just because it wanted to. So things don't always work the first time, and I'm the first one to admit it. Select the Zoom key now and click the lower left edge of the right face of the larger box twice. Okay, zoom. The lower left edge of the right face, yeah, that's this one. We're zooming in. Select the Perspective Selection tool. That's the one we just had. Here it is. Position the pointer over the right grid pane control. That's going to be one of these. There it is. That should be the right grid. When the pointer changes to the 2 side-by-side arrows, drag to the right until you get a distance of 0.5 inches. Okay. Release your mouse. Notice how the plane moved, but the artwork stayed in place. Now you're going to put the right grid plane back where it was. Double-click the same right plane control, and in the right vanishing plane dialog box, change the location from 0.5 to 0, and that's make sure that the do not move is selected and click OK. In the right vanishing pane dialog box, the do not move option allows you to move the grid plane and not the objects in it. The copy all objects option lets you move the plane and bring a copy of the objects with it, and the location option in the right vanishing pane dialog box starts at the station point, which is 0. The station point is indicated by the very small green diamond on the perspective grid. You can barely see it, but there it is. We're right under an intersect. With the perspective selection tool still selected, double-click on the left grid plane control, which is this one. Okay? So double-click that. Now, in the left vanishing plane dialog box, change the location in here to minus 1.4 inches, and you're going to do copy all objects and click OK. This moves the left plane to the left and copies the rectangle. It moves the copy. So we've got the grid slid and we've got the copy of this rectangle with it. There's a lot of keyboard commands that you can use with moving grid planes. You can hold down your Option on the Mac or Alt on the Windows and drag a grid plane to move it, and it will copy the content. Dragging a grid plane control while pressing the Shift key moves the objects with the grid plane without copying them. So moving or copying is covered. Now we're going to resize that rectangle so it can become the left side of that new tall box. So drag, I'm scrolling up, drag the lower right point of the new rectangle. Okay, oh, I gotta go back down again. But we're going to drag that and snap it to the lower left corner. It just pops right in. And now you can scroll up or you can back out of your view. I'm going to actually back out just a bit and pull in here so I can see where I'm at. Now, drag the upper right corner of the new rectangle up and snap it to the upper left corner of the front one. So we're just going to pull this straight up till it snaps. There you go. Drag the left middle point of the rectangle to the right. We want to get a width of about 0.65. So we're going to pull this in so that the width goes down. We want pretty close to a square. 6.9, 6.1. If I zoom in, I get more control. So let me grab this again, 0.68764. And let's see if I can make it no, I'm going to be bouncing back and forth. So I'm pretty close. I'm at 6.6 instead of 6.5. So now we have our second box, and you can deselect by clicking off. And again, if you're good on this, save. If you need to go back and revert back to where you were, all you need to do is File, Revert, and it'll send you back to the last save point, and you can continue to retry this. Again, when you're done, save.